Hey, welcome into Car Pooling with Ben. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one event, or really two events, but it starts with the first event every... Let me start that again. That was terrible. Hey, welcome into Car Pooling with Ben, ladies and gentlemen. My guest is already laughing at me because that's the kind of morning we're already having here. Bill Bartholomew from Bartholomew Town, Rhode Island's podcast of record. Bill, it's great to see you, sir.
Ben, always a pleasure, especially at the top of the morning. Can't beat it.
You know, that's how we make things happen, baby. You got to be a, mover shaker, not a, 9 to 5 or nickel dimer. You know what I mean? So
bingo.
You have been having all sorts of success. You've been very busy over the past year. Obviously, we've come out of the pandemic as far as we can right now at this point. But during the pandemic, you were there at the press conferences. You were there at the various events. You were there when the vaccines were rolling out, covering the governor, both governors now, Raimondo, who's now the Secretary of Commerce, right? Yeah.
Yep.
She does that thing down in Washington, D.C. She got a fancy office. Is she going to have you down there to do an interview, a live in-office B-Town interview?
Oh, she better, because she still owes me. We had a handshake agreement that she would come on the pod for a sit-down on August 18th, 2018, and we're still waiting for that. So we'll see.
Well, and then, of course, she recently moved, and the East Sides, saluted her by burning the bridge there as a thanks for coming, figuratively burning the bridges. No, it is what it is, but you've been all over the place with that. You've been on WPRO, you've been on Rhode Island PBS Weekly, which has been an incredible. It's on, obviously, a break for the summertime. You have been busy, but the summer doesn't take a time off for you, because this is a new element for the Newport Folk Festival coming up.
Yep.
You are going to be doing live podcasting from the Folk Festival every day of the festival.
Yeah, I'll be there. And what's interesting is I've been going to the festival since I was a little kid. I can remember in the 90s, my cousin bringing me there and just being like, wow, this is amazing that this happens in Rhode Island. It's such an incredible event with such world-class artists, new artists that you've never heard of, legendary artists. Like this year, we've got Randy Newman. A lot of people know him from Toy Story and his music there, but he's just one of these iconic, great songwriters that if you're like me, I probably wouldn't pay to go see Randy Newman, but now you've got this opportunity to have basically a master class with an amazing songwriter. And those are the kinds of things that Newport provides. And for the last 7 years, I've been there in different capacities and have had the occasional media access type scenario. But this will be the first year, like you said, that they're doing two sets of Folk Fest this year. They're calling it Folk On, reduced capacity, both for folk and jazz, which I think is going to be around 6,000 instead of 10,000, one less stage. But I'll be there every day. And yeah, we're going to be doing whatever happens. It's one of those things where we'll see what happens when I'm there, who's available, which artists are available. I have an idea of who, but I'm also going to be talking to people who are involved in the mechanics of the festival itself. A lot of people don't think about the videography, the production side of things, the staging, the vendors, the volunteers, the fans themselves. All of that goes into making an event like this happen. So it'll be more than just artist interviews that I'll be doing.
This is such a great thing for you, because I'm so excited, because one thing that you failed to mention.
Yes, I'm a failure.
You have been part of these festivals as a performer as well. You failed to mention that, sir. You have been. You've
kind of.
No, take it. You've been a performer because you are a musician. By the way, Bats is out everywhere you download, stream your music. Go find it for the good man here, because it was a great set of songs there. And
I appreciate that.
A very incredible talent. But of course, that's where you met the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Clampkin. PRO News.
Yes, an incredible moment. And to be fair, I've never been formally booked for the festival, but over the years I've performed everything from the open mic stage to they put what they're doing this year, actually something that they're going to have as a formal part of the festival is a busking stage. They basically put like a miniature stage out. And many years ago, my partner in crime and Silver Teeth, Gabriella Rossi, came up with the idea of maybe we should just set up and do a busking set.
Sure.
And we ended up doing it. And we got this huge crowd of, at least 1,000 people around us in that moment, just playing no PA system in the festival. We've performed on the family tent as well, which is a much smaller tent. So yeah, it's like a big, I always put an asterisk next to it. If someone asks me if I played the folk festival, I always say no, because I've never been booked by the festival, but technically have I performed there and met a lot of people, including Steve Klampkin? Yes, I've had the opportunity to grace that stage, and it's a magical experience, even in the capacity I have.
Your capacity, though, is far more legitimate than me saying that I've sung with Billy Joel, because I tell you, I have sung Down East to Alexa with Billy Joel multiple times on the highway. So, I mean, it's headed up to games and stuff. But you're going to be doing something. I mean, the podcasting at live events and kind of grabbing that and is not a new concept. It's new perhaps for the Newport Folk Festival, but it's a different element where, because this is going to be spread out, people who may be coming can get a different access to what's happening, or people who went the first day and want to follow up with what happened in subsequent days. This is something cool and unique. And I love what you talk about. People don't understand what goes into it. I mean, we can say that about anything. People don't understand what you do as an independent, hardworking journalist, reporter, out there person spreading the news about music, who's, shining the light on different elements in and around Rhode Island, Southern New England. They don't understand the amount of work, the detail, the level of planning. It's like, okay, when do you start planning next year's? Well, we actually started planning it last year for 2 years from now. It's an evolving process. What has been the biggest thing that you've learned through your work with them that's been the kind of the most surprising thing to you?
Trust the brand, number one, and then also trusting in that the detail orientation that goes in is the right choice. So, when you talk about a year in advance starting to work on things, that's how they operate over there. And there's a fine line of spontaneity and extreme preparation. There are things from a security standpoint and from a logistics standpoint, staging, tenting, porta-johns, whatever, verifying that everybody that comes in is either tested or vaccinated. All of these things are critical. And obviously the booking of the artists and all of that is critical as well. But then just also allowing for the unknown to happen. Who knows what's going to happen? There's, you're going to have artists that the fascinating about Folk Festival is you get situations like, I remember a few years ago, Beck was at the festival just there. He wasn't performing that year. He was just there enjoying. I think he brought his kids. And, so you have a lot of people who you never know who's going to end up on stage at any given moment. So you allow for that kind of space where it's programmed, but also, maybe Beck's going to grab an acoustic guitar and play a song, out of the blue.
Sure.
And that's the thing I've learned from them more than anything, is that if you trust in the brand, then it's going to work. And what's interesting as well is the coverage this year. I'm such a big sportscasting fan, speaking with one of the top sportscasters in the market right here, Mr. Ben DeCastro.
Nonsense.
But music could use more of that, and even if you were talking live coverage on a radio station, I can imagine, you kick in with a theme song and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen from Newport, Rhode Island. We're here at the Newport Folk Festival. Let's go out to the harbor stage for this set. And almost like the NCAA tournament, I won't be able to do that obviously this year, but I'm going to start to, in my head, think about how can I do something similar and kind of break it down to a smaller scale of bringing people in and almost that sportscasting type of mentality.
No, I think that's fascinating. You mentioned Beck, which just triggered in my memory earlier this year. On one of these carpooling virtual sessions, I had a guy named Barry Morgan. He is an organ person from Australia. And actually during the show, he says, "Oh, Rhode Island." I'm not going to do the accent because I don't want to offend an entire continent. He goes, "Rhode Island, that's where they have that festival." And I'm thinking Chowderfest. Are you thinking like the Best of Rhode Island party? No, he was talking about Folk Fest. And he was talking about a set that he heard there decades ago.
Yep.
And he goes, I have it on cassette here. And it's like, it's legit. And that's the amazing part of it. And by the way, folks, if you can ever find cassette recordings from many years ago, that's a prized possession. You can make some serious coin for it on eBay.
Definitely.
But it is something that I think is very special and unique. And I was so excited when I saw it, because you only announced this recently. You formed this partnership, and I mean, let's face it, you're not a first-year guy here. You've been doing this for years, so it takes years to build this kind of stuff. And I guess out of this whole episode, there's multiple messages. It's work hard. You got to do the homework. You got to put in the time. You got to be there. You got to press the flesh. You can't just expect to make a call last minute and get in,
right?
Because there's so many people doing what you and I do, and it takes time. But also, this element of knowing your craft and being there and being able to relate on so many different levels, that in and of itself, Bill, is, to be honest with you, brother, I think that is one of those, it's going to be such a cool thing. Not every podcaster or anybody who is covering or journaling via audio or whatever can do that, because you have the multifacets going into it.
It helps the cause.
What do you think is going to be your biggest challenge going into this?
Well, there's practical challenges of staying hydrated and staying energized. I'm also performing at number of unofficial after parties starting on Thursday. I'll be performing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday night, and then heading into Jazz Festival the Thursday before Jazz. So sleeping, all of those things, and that seems like whatever, but it's actually pretty critical. Being able to manage, you're out in the sun all day, and there is a tent for the media and so forth, but just like taking the time to take a break and step back and say, okay, we're going home for the day. Yeah, we're going to miss out on something, but we don't want to miss out on the next 8 days ahead.
Right. Well, it's either go home or go to the hospital, And
truly. Yeah.
One of those situations. One of the other unique things about, the Newport Folk or the Newport Jazz Fest is you can attend via water. A shout out to the good folks at Safe Sea. If you are out of the water and something happens, you need any kind of marine assistance, Safe Sea's there. Just head on over to their website, safesea.com. You can learn more about them there. But that's a unique element as well. Perhaps, folks, if you are watching this and you will be by boat and you want to be on the B-Town, Fun Fest here, you just reach out to Bill, and maybe you could do the live podcasting from a boat one day.
I'd love that.
That'd be a good, a welcome way to avoid the traffic.
Exactly. Newport Folk Fest, as they call it. And yeah, that's an amazing element of it. There's so many little pockets of the folk festival that are really interesting. There's Facebook groups that fans have formed. There's obviously the Float Fest, the boat itself, the artists, even artists that are relatively unknown outside of the folk fest community that are huge inside the festival. I mean, playing in front of not 10,000, but playing in front of like 3,000 or 4,000 people when their set comes up. But then in general, they're not massive artists. They have a community. There's so many different areas, the videographers, the photographers, the relationship. And I've got a cool episode on B-Town coming up next week that features Steve Clampkin, as well as Ken Abrams of What's Up Newport, and Brian Lima, who's an amazing photographer that is a staff photog for the festival. But the photographers, they all wear Hawaiian shirts. Throughout the year, they're in touch with each other. They go shoot practice shows around the region. So there's just so many pockets of this. The medical tent, I think about my buddy Peter Ruggieri and his organization and what the operation that they put together. And that's what I love about it. It's all these different worlds colliding to make something that you alluded to that's a world-class event. I know so many people that when I was in New York doing music, and I'd say I'm from Rhode Island, exactly the same thing. They say, oh, that's where Newport is, the Newport Festivals. That's amazing. How often do you go? Have you ever played? Do you know anybody who can get me a show there? All that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's a flag for the state that is, and you saw Governor Raimondo make appearances there and so forth. And I think she was generally, on board with it. But I'm optimistic Governor McKee, back in whenever it was, when he the whole, hey, there will be music in Newport, that's a significant metric. It wasn't just, that was a way to say, no, one of our premier events, we're going to make it happen this year. We're going to get the vaccinations done. We're going to get the logistical elements in place. and it's a priority because it really is an amazing flag for Rhode Island to wave to an international audience.
You're absolutely right. Bill, I couldn't be more proud of you with this whole opportunity. I'm looking forward to all the content that will be coming out, folks. The best way to do this is you buy, first off, by going to the website there, Bill, and or anywhere you download your podcasts, correct?
That's right. ripodcast.com or Spotify, Apple, whatever. Get on there, subscribe. And then normally episodes come out Tuesday, Friday. This will be a much more loose, fast and loose sort of posting.
Sure.
If I get something, I'm not going to do any production. Normally there's a lot of production with intro music, this, that, and the other. This will be the most raw podcast that I'll put out. It'll be an experiment for election coverage as well. Do people enjoy this kind of getting off schedule and boom, there's just an unedited 10-minute conversation with somebody but it's in real time. It's literally, if you're at home and you're not able to get into the festival because the tickets are sold out and there's a huge waiting list, but you want to, a look in from an audio standpoint, I'll be able to provide that to you in real time. Well, not live, but in pretty darn close to real time.
Right. Well, and I think that's something interesting because you and I mean, we talk all the time. We always talk about, stuff that you put on the podcast that could be evergreen versus stuff that is current events that matters now and may not matter in 10 days from now. But this, even with all the elements, it will remain relevant, which I'm very excited about. And folks, there's a great way you can support Bill by going to Patreon. You have a wonderful Patreon set up there, and give people that information because, that helps to pay the bills, Bill.
Yeah. Patreon.com/Bartholomew Town. You can just chip in for $3 a month. And exactly, as more than anyone, because we talk about this all the time. There's just expenses. If you want to have Zoom that is like we're using now that records and is in a professional grade, that costs money. To host the show costs money. If you want to use multi-platform live streaming, that costs money, and so on and so forth. So the $3 a month contributions, I always say it supports the bedrock of the show. It really does. I mean, I'm not using that to line my pockets, that's for sure. So it's much appreciated.
And of course, you can go all the way up to the $10,000 a month Dante Bellini exclusive level, which involves a phone call from you once a week, where you'll give tips on the various spreads that are out there and the various, opportunities for people to gamble. So it's a wonderful thing. So
exactly. You get a sit down, a $10,000 per month level. You get a weekly sit down with Dante Bellini Jr. inside Angelo's on Federal Hill. He'll also give you a Benny's t-shirt every now and then.
Absolutely. And he'll make sure you have a good recipe for the split pea soup, because that is his favorite, even on the hottest of summer days. Well,
maniac.
Indeed. Bill, I'm very proud of you. I love you. And go get him. Be careful, folks. Go follow Bill. Go follow the upcoming Folk Festival, Jazz Festival. It's going to be amazing. And if you can go over to the Patreon, and it's not a lot, and it's so easy to support the amazing independent artistic journalism that is coming from my man Bill here. Sir, have yourself a wonderful day. Stay cool. Stay hydrated.
I will. Believe me, coffee counts, right? Iced coffee?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we'll be good then.
In it, right?
The ice itself. I mean, that's like more than. Yeah, come on.
Hey.